Hey everyone, it is Kevin Henry, editor-in-chief for drbicuspid.com. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the drbicuspid.com podcast. It'll be a very timely talk today with Michelle Coker, who is an employment practices analyst with the California Dental Association. Michelle, it's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you back because your knowledge of what's going on out there and some things that maybe dentists and employers need to be doing better is so important right now. And before we dive in, I'd just love for our audience to know a little bit more about you.
I started my career out in dentistry and working in private practices. And then I moved to CDA about 19 years ago. So I've been with CDA for 19 years. In my current role as an employment expert, I was trying to remember when I joined this team. So I've been on the practice support team for longer, but in this role about 13.
So as we get toward the end of 2025 and we head toward that pivotal fourth quarter for so many dental practices, I just want to pick your brain for a minute. What are some things that you're hearing from your constituents and those involved in CDA that maybe we need to be reminded of, or maybe we need to really have in place in our head for the fourth quarter?
Gosh, I don't know if it's just the fourth quarter or all the quarters. There are reoccurring themes of calls that we tend to receive on the practice support team, but especially in employment. Managing leaves of absence is one of our top calls. Very complex. With California laws, there seems to be a new leave law that's added each year over year over year. So employers really need to be mindful that there are just a myriad of complex leave laws in California that they need to comply with. Terminations, which I believe really begins with the hiring process and doing that right and vetting employees. So you don't end up, within a short period of time realizing that maybe you didn't hire the right person for the job. Some other calls that we receive, paid sick leave is a really big topic, and how to manage employees and their policies and understanding, because that law changed last year, right? Even though it's been in place since 2014, working interviews, really a myriad of compliance, complex compliance in California, especially.
So what do you always advise dentists to do to keep up with all of these law changes, whether they're in California or another state? Is it simply being in touch with their state dental association to get the facts, or what do you all suggest at CDA?
Well, one of the things that we're really good at is getting the information out to members, right? Knowing that CDA is a trusted resource. We are scanning the legal landscape all the time to see and define what it is that they need to do, provide guidance when necessary. So staying in touch with notifications of newsletters, the cda.org website, the information is all there that they need. And we're on top of getting the information out there that's pertinent to dentists and at any stage in their career.
I want to go back to something you said a minute ago about it all starts with the hiring process, especially, terminations can come, let's be honest.
Yeah.
What is the biggest thing that dentists need to be doing during the hiring process to maybe hopefully avoid a termination down the road?
Yeah, one of the things I repeatedly say is have a process, right? Have a standard hiring process where you are developing a job description or redeveloping a job description for whatever role it is that you need, right? Really take a look at your practice to ensure that you're hiring the right person for the right job. Then, obviously interviewing, but not hiring that individual that's just the first, it's the first person to sit in the chair without fully vetting. I think one of the mistakes they miss is not checking references, making sure that they, are asking the right questions with reference checks. If you have a specific task that you anticipate this role covering, let's say social media. I had a member once that wanted to make social media marketing a focus of a role that they were hiring for. And unfortunately, she didn't ask the questions of the previous employer to determine if the individual had any experience with social media marketing. Turns out she didn't. and therefore really was struggling in the role. So ask the right questions, make sure that, develop those job descriptions, and then set expectations from the beginning of the relationship, right? Have the conversations about, what it takes to succeed in the role, and set those expectations at the onboarding. And that way that individual knows what you are looking for, and work with them to get up to speed. So you're not frustrated by somebody who doesn't understand what that they're not meeting your expectations.
And I'm going to take you to the other end of the spectrum now, if that's okay, because I've got to ask about the termination side of things. And as you said, sometimes we hire team members, sometimes they struggle, and sometimes we realize that person isn't the right fit. How do we make sure that the termination process goes as smoothly as possible?
One of the things I generally tend to ask employers when I'm speaking to them is this going to come as a surprise to the employee? Because if it is, you likely, as an employer, haven't done what I just said: set expectations, provided feedback, additional training, really working with somebody along the way to ensure that they're up to speed, right? Document that you've had these conversations, and that you've expressed that you want immediate and sustained change. So that way, if somebody truly isn't meeting your expectations, but you've set them, then it likely won't come as a surprise if you need to terminate or separate somebody from employment. I also ask about documentation. Documentation doesn't have to be formal. It could be a note that you text yourself that you had a conversation with an employee in the hallway, and you print that out. Or if you have electronic records, you drop that into the employee records, right? I mean, if it gets to the point where you're doing a performance improvement plan, where it's in writing, it's very formal, you've set the expectation, and you're giving the employee the opportunity to be successful in your business, in their role. That's what a performance improvement plan is for, not to set somebody up for a separation, but to set them up to really be successful with you, because you've provided the guidance on how, right? You've set the expectation of how. I think just making sure that it's not coming as a surprise is the biggest thing.
One thing that I've heard often is the phrase, if you don't document it, it didn't happen. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I actually heard a phrase: if it's not on paper, it's vapor, because it's true.
Well, that's
If
good.
you don't document it, yeah, if it's not on paper, it's vapor. And that's with patient records, that's with employee records, it's all records, right? You need to make sure that you are documenting what you do, because quite honestly, California is an at-will employment state, right? But it really doesn't offer a lot of protections. Employers really should have some reason and some substantial documentation to refer to should a third party ask questions about why you came to the decision to terminate an employee. You really need to protect yourself.
I mentioned the fourth quarter whenever we started, and like you said, this is important in any quarter. But
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
know the fourth quarter includes a lot of the holidays that we all celebrate, and the dental practices will shut down usually. Is there any piece of advice you would give as dentists head into the holidays, maybe things to do or not to do with that time of year?
Sure. One of the things I find that surprises employers is that holidays are optional, right? And a business in California doesn't have to provide holiday pay or even holiday time off. So it's completely managed by your policies, right? So you should have written policies. You don't have to have a handbook per se. Legally, it doesn't all need to be in a handbook, but it is a best practice. And there are a number of policies that need to be in writing. So why not have a manual? But holidays, PTO, vacation time should all be clearly spelled out for your employees, how they request time off, how much time they have. If you celebrate or offer holiday time off, I always recommend that in the beginning, or excuse me, the end of the year, look into the year forward to see what holidays you will be providing time off for, whether or not it's paid, and post that at the beginning of the year. So there's no question. 4th of July, sometimes that falls on a weekend, right? Are you observing it on Friday? Are you observing it on Monday? Is it paid? Things like that. So that really all is driven by your policies, and when you can deny time off and how those things work. It's really important that it is clear. Employees you hire expect time off. Pretty much in general, most employees, most full-time employees expect time off. So in reality, they expect you to do it right, right? So make sure you understand or are following your policies consistently and that you're not showing preferential treatment to one employee over another.
Always good advice. And Michelle, I just want to make sure, obviously, if our dentists or team members are listening in California right now, how do they get a hold of you or how do they learn more from CDA about some of the things that we've talked about today?
So you can call CDA's main line to ask to speak to an expert. I am part of a team called Practice Support. And we're a team of experts that can provide guidance in dental benefit plan, contracts or claims processing or the like. We have a regulatory compliance expert that can provide guidance with, HIPAA questions, privacy, dental practice, myriad of regulatory items. And then we have a practice management analyst that can help you with marketing and financial arrangements. And then myself, an employment practices analyst. We also have two associate analysts that take calls as well. So we can provide guidance, we provide education, resources, and templates on the cda.org website.
And again, that's for California. We know so many of you who are listening or watching this are outside of California as well. So I just want to encourage you, contact your local state dental association to learn what resources are available to you whenever it comes to positions like Michelle that may be in Michigan or Oklahoma or who knows where else.
Yeah.
So,
I think California is pretty unique in that we offer these services to our members. I forgot to mention, you can also reach out to me directly or really any of the analysts directly as well. If you go onto the website, you'll see our information is on there.
And we're going to have that link in the show notes, or if you're watching this on drbicuspid.com in our article, hey, just click in the article. It's very easy to find. So, Michelle, I always enjoy the chat, and thank you for answering so many questions for so many dentists there in California.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. And members, please reach out. We're here for you.
And that's a great thought for so many dentists out there, is that there are people out there to help them navigate through all of this. So, Michelle, again, thank you. And thank you to all of you who've watched and listened to this episode of the drbicuspid.com podcast. Hey, some very important things to consider. Again, heading into the fourth quarter or any time of year, make sure that you have the experts on your side. And just a quick note before I wrap up, I want to thank the California Dental Association for helping match Michelle and I for this podcast, as well as the help that they do all the time with drbicuspid.com. Till next time, it's Kevin Henry, editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid, signing off. And as always, wishing you nothing but success ahead.